Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Welcome to our fourth edition of our Let's Strategize series. One of the things where we bring you insights from some of the biggest names in real estate, investments, and everything in between. So I'm Sudarshan, and today we have a very interesting topic to discuss, and one of the most prolific person who can speak more about that segment, which is angel investing. We will be discussing about angel investing, who it is for, who it isn't for, what should you look for, where to start from, and also to give you an entire peek into the sector. We have a prolific uh, venture capitalist, I would say right now, called Ankur. Ankur is the co-founder of Inflection Point Ventures, who has funded, if I'm not wrong, upwards of 50 startups
100.
already since inception. Right?
100.
Welcome, Ankur. Thank you for doing this with us and giving our entire investor base an idea about a different investment asset class in itself, what you're building.
Pleasure is all mine, Sudarshan. And by the way, it's 100 plus startups now.
Okay, my bad. So sorry. Great, Ankur. Before we begin, Ankur, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about IPV, and all the kind of startups you are invested in, how the journey has been for you, and I'm sure as someone who's leading or envisages the whole IPV in itself, what has been your great learnings ever since things have started off here?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm a chartered accountant by profession. And then I went to US and did my MBA. After that, I started my investment banking career, primarily mergers acquisitions. First with Citigroup in New York, and then with Credit Suisse in London. And then I was responsible for building up the operations for one of the world's largest financial training company. And I was working with, I was doing a lot of consulting projects for some of the biggest sovereign wealth funds, whether it's ADIA, Mubadala, ICD, GIC, China CIC. I started investments in startups as a hobby, became my passion, and now my profession. Um, when I moved back to India, I'm not from IIT, I'm not from IIM. And so my biggest challenge was, how do I ensure that good quality deals come to me? And then how do I ensure that I can invest in startups where I may not be the subject matter expertise? Because just because, I understand finance doesn't mean that I understand everything about finance. And so therefore left on my own, my challenge was, how do I take smart investment decisions? And what I felt was that in India, as is with the rest of the world, there was a very super angel kind of a culture where one person comes in and says, I'm investing, and this is the person who is either a founder or a successful entrepreneur. And so everybody thinks that, oh, well, this person is investing, let's invest, not realizing that 10 lakhs for this person is nothing, but 2.5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs is a lot of money for us. So having been through the process, Vinay, who were co-investing together, we decided to start IPV. And then were joined by Mitesh, Vinod sir, a few other people along the journey, where the focus was that while we have all the top family offices, micro VCs on our platform, but we decided to build a CXO first platform, and based on two strong pillars: strong upfront due diligence and stronger post investment support. Because we realized that as an investor, I need all kinds of support. I need legal support. So Sudarshan, your and my battles on the negotiation of SSHA, where you are fighting hard for the startup and I'm fighting hard for the investor. And that's a good process. And I think that's the process I would have wanted somebody to do for me. So that's what we have created IPV. We all come together. It's a knowledge pooling, resource pooling. We try to generate businesses for our startups. We try to help our startups. And that is how we have been able to achieve the success we have, where out of 50 deals we funded last year, we have already got 14 exits, including one unicorn exit. Another 20 are sitting in follow-ons, out of which 2 have already become unicorns. I am proud to say I have one anti-portfolio, and that is Strata. I did not realize it, but in our earlier days, you did come to us, and somehow we missed it. And while every investor will have an anti-portfolio, we have fixed our processes since then. Now we have a selection panel of 40 plus people. So it's probably very difficult for a good startup like yours to miss us now anymore.
Okay. No, thank you, Ankur. This is quite overwhelming, especially seeing you. So for all the listeners to understand, I've represented 3 of the startups which IPV invested. the first fight at investments. In fact, I think one or two of them, I was the lawyer. So I've seen the evolution of how Ankur, Vinay, and Mitesh and others who have built the entire IPV together, the kind of dedication all of them have put into to. I mean, it's not just building a venture, but it's about being mad about helping people, and that is what the entire management brings on board at IPV. It's something which I look up to. I've told my team as well, right? That's how we should be. You should always be giving to the ecosystem rather than only absorbing from the ecosystem as such, right? So kudos to you guys, right? So I want to keep it very simple for all our listeners to understand, right? Like, what is angel investing? How do you start? How it is done? What, and especially in the current situation, right? Like, where in all these startups, which to earlier was like, someone's doing something. I remember one of my friend who was looking at getting married, and he was running a startup, and he wanted to get married, and all the girls' family used to ask him, "Oh, startup kar raha hai, main to shaad mein ladki dungi nahi." to you, right? And today, to a point that if you're working in a corporate, but working in startups are preferred more, right? So evolution has happened. So for simple understanding to people, right? How do how it started? Why is it done? And what's the current opportunity and scenario in itself?
See, we think it's a new culture, but it's not a new culture. Dhirubhai Ambani had an angel investor who was his wife. His wife gave him the money to start a business, right? In every business, you will see there is a angel. That angel can support these venture through money, through contacts, through network, right? We all bring it together and call it angel investment. So we are like angels to the startup. Now, the thing is, most of the networks out there are only capital providers. They are not providing all the other things that kind of makes you an angel. Now, as you invest in bigger and bigger companies, your risk decreases because you have more information. You have their revenue, historical revenue, you have their net income, you have their quarterly reports, annual reports, right? Now, when you're investing in earlier stage businesses, you are investing on the idea, you're investing on the potential of the idea, the market, you're investing primarily on the founders, right? And that is where there is a relatively higher risk, but so it's a risk reward. What we are trying to do at IPV is trying to balance out the risk reward by having a detailed due diligence process where we spend a lot of time with the founders, we spend a lot of time with the subject matter experts, with the existing clients, future clients, prospective clients, competitors, trying to understand the ecosystem, thereby reducing the chances of failure and consequently improving your chances of success. So angel investment is a alternative investment strategy. Just like you invest in real estate, just like you invest in equities, just like you invest in debt, you invest in startups. But to be really successful in startups, it is important that you contribute more than just capital. In real estate, you can give your money and then smart people like you, Kotak and all that will take care of your money, JLLs, and they will help it grow. In equity, you invest in Reliance and then let Ambani, Mr. Ambani do his magic, right? You invest, you take a debt AAA rated company, and then you hope that somebody gave them the right rating, and then let the money to work. In startup, you can give your money and let these founders do work. That's one approach. Or the other approach is you can understand what are the needs that the founder has, and can you help in strategy? Can you help in marketing? Can you help in business development? Can you help in testing the app? Because sometimes we come pre-product. We actually test the app and we give the feedback to the tech team, and then they incorporate our changes. We test it on our family and friends. And that's angel investing, where you contribute more than just capital. The need to do that is because all of us need alternate sources. If you think about it, FDs are no longer a way. If you already don't know it, adjusted for inflation, you actually lose money on FDs. It is the way a lot of us invested, and we should not invest anymore. Equities, great way. Real estate, coming back, especially the organized real estate, good developers, right? PPF gold in India, like PPF is okay, but entry exit issues. Gold in India is really more ornamental value than anything. So what does it leave? You can't put everything in real estate and equities, right? And therefore, you have startup investment, and when done right, it can probably generate you great returns, 20% plus returns. Start small. You have the option to start small. You can start like at IPV at 2.5 lakh rupees per startup per investment. But my advice is don't come with the mindset to invest only 2.5 lakh rupees. Risk reward is not in your favor. invest in 10. So have a kitty and the capacity to invest in 25 lakhs. Not in 1 year, spread it over 2 years, no problem. 2.5 years, no problem. 3 years, no problem. More than that, no, don't do that. 25 lakhs, 3 years, or whatever other amount, spread it across 10 investments. Work, help wherever you can, and invest together as a group. Try avoiding alone.
No, fair enough. This is very, very important. I mean, bringing to a point, right? Like to add on to what you've been mentioning, like, so what are the kind of returns one should expect? What are the time frame they should stay invested into it? You mentioned that, come with an investment horizon to invest in 5, 10 for across 2, 3 years, but when is the right time to exit? What are the returns one can expect? Let's say you invested in 10, maybe 10 out of 10 went bankrupt or 5 went bankrupt, but the 5, what are the kind of returns they can make up for the 5 you lost, and what on top of it?
See, in Bharat Pay, we got an 80x return in 2.5 years.
Wow.
In IRR, it was 477% IRR. A 5 lakh rupee investment became a 4 crore investment in 2.5 years. I think I would have made the same money if I would have invested in Strata. Right? And that's the opportunity. Doesn't happen to everybody, doesn't happen in every company, doesn't happen in every investment. So if you invest in 10, 3, 4 will fail. Not because you picked up a wrong startup, but because a lot of things can go wrong, right? 2, 3 will just return capital or marginal returns. And 2, 3 will give you 4x plus exit. And therefore, over a period of 3 to 5 years, you should expect a IRR on a conservative side of 20% plus, which still is one of the best returns in the industry.
Yeah.
And you're still spreading your risk by spreading your investments. And that's the return you can get. And you should, while we have generated exit opportunities within 15 days, 15 days also, right? And at IPV, we are a IRR focused, not multiple focused. We are IRR focused startup, where we try to create early exit opportunities for our investors so that the money stays in circulation. Because for startup investment to become a viable investment alternative, there needs to be more liquidity than there is today.
Yeah.
And that is what IPV is trying to do. But come with a mindset to stay invested for 3 to 5 years, because at the stage at which we invest, the startup will take the money, build the product, hire a team, build a product, take it to market, make the initial fixes, then go back into the market, then acquire customers, then raise the next round. And if you really want those 5x, 6x, 8x kind of returns, then you should ideally skip a round. Because so if you're investing in seed, skip pre-series A and get to series A. These are just different terms given to the rounds. Yeah. And that's where your returns coming in. But you asked me about exit. I always tell my investors, if you've never got exit before, take the first exit opportunity. Have the feeling of money coming back to you, right? That's very important. If you are getting a good, decent 3x, 4x exit, take it. Can the startup become bigger? Of course. If a new investor is coming, if a large investor is coming, a big VC is coming, chances are they have already seen a big return. But let me tell you, even Sequoia will have some failures on their hand, and even Tiger Global will have some failures. So just because they are investing doesn't mean the success is guaranteed, right? Similarly, if 10,000 startups get funded, one will become a unicorn.
Yeah.
So it's not like every startup will become a unicorn. So waiting for a startup to become a unicorn may not be a right strategy either. So when you get an exit opportunity, take an exit opportunity, free up your capital. You will have more capital, more confidence to deploy in more startups.
No, completely agreed. Especially now that you've seen a couple of your startups becoming unicorn, multiple unicorns, and the plethora of startups you've funded. This is very important for people to understand, because entry is always easy. Exit, when you get it, bang on, take it and move on. Right? Well, all this sounds great, right? From a return standpoint, it's exciting because it's more like a community itself, right? That you're not just coming and investing, but you're helping a category grow. You're creating an ecosystem. You're, disrupting something which has never been done before. That's what startups.
I don't want to see the unemployment numbers of India without the startups. They will be very bad.
Yeah, I'm sure. Especially with just the likes of Swiggy, Ola itself, we can say.
Exactly. Look at the employment opportunities generated by them.
The micro gig entrepreneurship which they've created itself, it gives me a different high in itself, right? So even Urban Company, others, right? These are fantastic ideas how they've created entrepreneurs and built a business by creating entrepreneurs, right? That's what you're doing as well, right? You're creating entrepreneurs, helping them back their dreams and building it above there. So brings to a very important point, which is critical also, right? Like when everything is great, rosy, etc. But who is this not for, right? And who do you think should do it? Who should stay away? And from a portfolio allocation standpoint, let's say somebody has a 10 crore portfolio, right? What do you think should be an allocation one should make from an investment standpoint?
So to each their own. I will also say, everybody should bring in the personal perspective in this. I can explain you. So there was a thinking that, this investment is for people between the age group of 30 to 50. I met an investor at IPV. He is 65. He invests 7 lakh rupees in every single startup we bring on a platform, and we bring one startup a week. And I asked him, I was like, why do you do that? Because this is very contrarian to what you think age of an angel investor will be. And he was like, listen, Ankur, I'm, by grace of God, I've been very successful in life. I have made my money. My kids are well settled. They don't need my money. And I am retired now. Now I come every Saturday, I attend your calls. Every Wednesday, I attend your calls. It forces me to think what problem they're solving. It excites me. And it has given me, again, a reason to get busy. And this money that I'm investing, I'm sure that it will come back in multiples. But even if it doesn't come back, right, it's okay. It's the price I'm paying towards education, because I'm learning every day I come onto your platform. And nobody in my family needs this money. So I have stopped defining who should invest. There are 24, 25-year-old people on my platform who, what they have done is they have got together with their friends. So because the minimum investment is 2.5 lakh rupees, and as per Indian laws, there can be up to 3 names on a cap table. So in single cap table entry, you can have up to 3 names. We did that for Fabheads.
Yeah.
Right? And now they have started getting together, and they have broken down the 2.5 lakh rupees into 80,000 per person. They get together and they invest. So they have even further reduced the minimum amount that which they can invest in a startup, right? So because they feel, and rightly so, that it's a viable investment alternative, and therefore why should they stop just because they can't invest? What I do tell is, invest the amount you don't mind losing. Our effort will be for you to make 3x of that, but at the minimum, even more. But it should be the amount to begin with till you are understanding the ropes. Let it be the amount you don't mind losing.
Yeah.
Like the gentleman said, the cost of learning.
Yeah.
Right. Let the money earn itself, come back to you. You understand this more, keep increasing. It's a marathon. As for, like they say, wealth is a lifelong journey, right? And you're, so better to begin early. So if there is a certain amount you can invest, and that is, again, we are trying to democratizing angel investment. That's why we reduce the minimum size to 2.5 lakh rupees. Most of the places it's 5, 7. And then what we have done is we have created AIF structure to take care of the cap table entry positions, which is the downside of having a lower ticket size. But start when you feel comfortable with that money. Start with the objective that you're going to do it for next 2, 3, 4 years, see the returns, and then probably continue for the life. And I always jokingly say, but I'm actually serious about it, that invest more in startups than you invest in Bitcoins. Because one tweet of Elon Musk can take it up and down 40%. That doesn't happen with startups. Startups have a far longer journey.
No, correct. And more than journey, a far bigger vision. Which we have no idea if Bitcoin has a vision itself or not, right? So clearly that definitely answers. No, very rightly said. I think the risk to reward is great, but in my opinion, I mean, if you can add tremendous value to a company, please go all out. All these companies, especially all these startups, have grown only because that the community has come together and helped them. Gone are those days where people are not helpful enough. The ecosystem now is very, very helpful because they know we are not competing with each other or whatever it is for that matter. They always come out, extend. I mean, I've been introduced to at least 500,000 people in the last 1.5 years by well-wishers, by friends, by people in the ecosystem in Bangalore, in Gurgaon, in Bombay, etc. Right? So times have changed. It's more and evolved.
It's not just time has changed, right, Sudarshan? When they invest in you, they are invested in your success. In your success lies their success. It's a perfect alignment. They are introducing you because they want to make sure that, if this becomes a success, then automatically their investment becomes a success. I'm not saying people do it only for commerce reasons, but trust me, commerce can become a very big reason. So while the economy, while the whole ecosystem is coming together, we at IPV proactively try to bring the investors to support these startups. And I tell my founders, don't be afraid taking 2.5 lakh rupees, because the person, a family office may put in 2.5 crores. But what is the value of 2.5 crore for that family office versus what is the value of 2.5 lakh rupees for that individual investor?
Correct.
And that individual investor will work doubly hard. Now, if you have to go and hire that person, you will have to pay him a salary of 1 crore for him to work for you. But now he's not only working for you, he's giving you 2.5 lakh rupees also. So I tell my founders to respect the investors. These days founders have also got so much liquidity that they kind of forget that, you are saying help the startup. I am telling founders should need help, right? Founders should be open to getting help. These days founders think so much capital is chasing them. Yeah, we don't need help. We have made it.
which actually brings me to a very interesting question, right? Like, this year, I think we've got little less over than 40%, 40 unicorns. In India, we have 80. Today, you have multiple of your portfolios which are on the verge of becoming more, and that 80 will cross the 100 as well at the same time, right? So this funding frenzy, right? I'm using this word, if this is the right word, I don't know. But if this cycle, right, is this perhaps a right time for an angel investor to enter now? Or are we late? Or is this going to last long, where this is going to last for the next 4-5 years, where, okay, we'll see a massive upside, very commerce speaking, where we'll see a massive upside for investors, where, like how you made an 80x in one of your investments, where investors can take or envisage that this 80x or 100, 500, God knows what, can be made or not, right? What are your views on that?
So see, Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon all those years back, got $300,000 from his family and friends, like 30 years back, 25 years back. We are not even close to that.
Yeah.
We are not even close to that time that existed in US 25 years. China is also far ahead of us when it comes to angel investments, startup investments, amount of money that goes into these countries. It's probably the first year in 21 where more VC money has come to India than China, right? And that is because the Chinese startup ecosystem is going through some turbulent times.
Yeah.
Now, like any cycle, there will be troughs and falls. I'm not going to say that it will going to stay rosy like this. But fundamentally, startups are solving a problem. Fundamentally, what will happen is that some will succeed, some will fail, but whichever will succeed will have a bigger market to play with and they will become stronger. We just had 3-4 startups getting listed this year. Next year, there could be more. So it is here to stay. The cycle will continue. Would there be falls? There will be falls. Like with any industry, it will go. But we look at this frenzy only because media has made it into a frenzy. We celebrate every small success, right? Yes, it is something to be proud of. But if you look at the numbers still compared to the number of unicorns that come out of US and Europe and China, we are still in the earlier stages, the number of unicorns we have versus rest of the world. But we have bigger problems and a larger population. And now we have good resources. We have a young population. We have a mobile first, demographic. So a lot of factors are in the favor of the success of Indian startup ecosystem. So I think there is never a bad time. There is never a good time. Today, the day you start is the right time. Just be patient. Don't be in a rush. Don't get guided. Never do anything out of FOMO. That's my only advice to all the investors. If you feel compelled to do it out of FOMO, fear of missing out, please don't do it.
Yeah.
Come with it with an open mind, with full knowledge. And thanks to you, you create these opportunities. Come with open mind, know what you're getting into, understand the risk reward, understand your risk appetite, start small, keep on going, keep on continuing.
No, Ankur, thank you. This is quite insightful. I'll just leave it to a last and then open to question answers for people who want to ask questions. Feel free. We have Ankur. He can answer all the queries you have. Ankur, so how does one work with IPV, sign up with you guys? How do they get access to angel investing? And I'm sure you might be having multiple master classes or things where they can understand nuances as much as they understood now in this half an hour session. But is there something more which you guys do detailed where they can reach out to you? How do they go about doing that?
Absolutely. What I can do is, Sudarshan, I can, so basically you go to ipventures.in. There is a investor contact us section. So when you go to contact us, you open up at the investor section. You just fill up your form and somebody from my team will reach out to you, will walk you through the entire process, explain you the IPV platform. We have an app which basically guides you through everything. IPV is an investing and a learning platform. So, we hold master classes almost every Saturday where we bring. So, for example, you are the first ones to know. We are going to make an announcement soon. Next Saturday, which is 11th, we are going to get CFOs of 4 startups. 2 of them have already recently got listed, and 2 of them are on their way to getting listed. Talking about startups journey and leading up to IPO listing, right? A very relevant topic for today. So we will bring in speakers. We will organize these seminars where you can come learn. We have brought famous investors like Rajan Anandan, Ronnie Screwvala, come to our platform. We have done sessions sector specific. So we have done sessions on health tech, ed tech, deep tech. People explaining the legality. So Sudarshan, we have somebody who came and explained what SSHA is, what are the broad terms, what are drag along rights, tag along rights, right? Because investors will see all these things in the SSHA, but what are these terms, right? So we do all these sessions to explain to the investors what it is. And that is why we have kept the membership fee also very low. It's just 18,499 plus GST annually. And there is no compulsion for you to invest. If you want to come, wait for 6 months, just look at the process, that's fine. Want to start small, that's fine. It's up to you.
Fair enough, Ankur. Thank you so much. I'm sure many of them would be very excited. Many of them they don't know the medium. What you're doing at IPV is revolutionizing it in a way where you're making it very, very simple. You have the best of folks. Like you said, you're a 40-member team which is evaluating every startup in itself.
Even the team has grown to 100
now. Which is evaluating. So there's several layers of due diligence done and then it's filtered out. So I'm sure, I probably want to know one small thing, right? Like if you invest in a startup today, how many do you say no to before that one gets selected?
So for the 100 startups we have evaluated, we have funded, we evaluated. So we have a success rate of 2.5%. So you can back calculate. I think it's over 5,000 startups we evaluated, out of which 100 got funded. We have a selection panel of 40 plus very senior investors who vote on every single startup that comes to us. Major filtering happens there. After that, we bring it to our investors. Our investors fill up the feedback form. If the investor interest is there, then we move forward. We do due diligence. If the due diligence is positive, then we take it for funding. If after funding, all the documentation is correct, we will invest. We have backed out of 2 startups after the documentation because after the funding, because generally we never do that. But in one case, because in the SSHA stage, the founder was just acting very, very funny. So.
No, I think they didn't have a good lawyer like me.
Yes. So, sometimes I actually think that why do people not tell their lawyers that, listen, we want to do the deals, or the lawyers don't explain it. Crazy story I will tell you later why we walked away from this deal.
Fair enough. Great. I'll just take a few questions.
Sure.
Very curious people who are very interested to know. For the startups you invested, can you please share about a few failures and lessons which you've learned and something which you pass on and ensure all the other startups you invest don't do these things?
So at IPV, we have one failure where we couldn't return capital. Right. And there my learning was, and I say touch wood and with all the humility and thanks to the God that there is one failure, although unfortunately there could be more failures and there will be more failures. If you have a 100 portfolio, you will have about 20-30 startups that will fail. That's just part and parcel. But touch wood, we have only had one. There my biggest learning was that if you are doing it, so it was a deep tech business run by 2 consultants. the CTO was not part of the core team, was not part of the founding team. So didn't have enough skin in the game. Very small equity, very small ESOPs. And I saw a big disconnect between the founders and the CTO. And the business needs and the technology could never marry. And therefore, I think the tech was good, but I think they couldn't sell very well because they didn't understand the tech, the founders and the CTO didn't understand the business. So one of the things learning was that if you're doing a deep tech business, the CTO should be one of the founders. They should have good skin in the game. Understanding will come on its own when they have enough skin. If they don't treat themselves as employees, the learning will come. So that was my learning. And then as a process, like I said earlier, IPV came out of my learnings where I wanted to have so I invested in a business at the same time as probably when Swiggy got their funding. So I invested in a similar delivery cloud kitchen concept. Zomato, Swiggy, they all got invested at the same time. I also invested in a startup, but instead of a unicorn and an IPO company, my startup failed. And the reason is because I realized the founders were not committed enough to the idea. So the second thing, and in both the cases, if you have seen, both my learnings are related to the founders. That tells you the importance of founders to the overall ecosystem.
Oh, very, very important. I'm very sure. Which comes to another very interesting question which you asked is, how do you value a company? Is there any parameters which you do? And, I'll add on to that is, as a part of the valuation, what is the percentage of metrics you would give it to a founder itself?
Yes.
Business one side, question. Founder one side.
Excellent question. 2 weeks back at IPV, I held a masterclass. I shouldn't call it a masterclass because I led it. So I don't want to be, I don't want to call it a masterclass, but I held a class on valuation. I used to, prior to starting IPV, I used to teach valuation at some of the leading universities where I was a guest at, say, INSEAD or Harvard or London Business School, where I used to talk about valuation for established companies. Now I'm dealing with valuations of startups. Your traditional valuation methodologies don't work here in most of the cases because they will not even have an EBITDA or a cash flow positivity. So you can't really run a DCF model. It doesn't make sense to run a DCF which turns cash flow positive in 10 years. And then you are assuming that growth rate will continue to infinity. And then how do you arrive at a discount rate or whatever? So it's pretty much a futile exercise. Yeah. So there are other factors that you look into. Of course, you look at the comparable, transactions. You also look at the sector. There are some broad benchmarks that there are, like, a B2B SaaS company will have X multiple of revenue. A food company will have X multiple of revenue. But then, like you rightly said, for me, founder is a big part of my valuation. And I want to make sure that founder's interest is protected. So very recently, I funded a startup where I actually increased the valuation of the startup because the founder had pivoted the model, but in the previous business model, they had already diluted 55%. So they already diluted 45%. So they only had 55% stake at the valuation at which I gave them. At the valuation at which they came to me, if we would have gone with the same valuation, then they would have come below 50% in the current round only. And I did not want that to happen because I wanted the founders to have a very decent skin in the game when the next round comes. Because when the VCs see a very small, equity left for the founders, then they are also not interested in investing in that business. So I protected the founders' interest there. And in the pre-ideas, in the pre-product ideas, 100% of the valuation is coming from founders. Because yes, you can put 10-20% to the sector, but sector is good for everybody.
Correct.
But the product has not been built. So now you're only banking on the founders, whether they will be able to build that product or not, whether they will be able to pivot or not when required.
No, very important. I'll move on to our next question. For a new investor investing into angel investing, how does he choose which startup to invest?
Excellent question. I can't tell you how to. I can't tell you how to pick, but what I will tell you is what not to do. When picking the startup, don't think that you are the customer of the startup. If you are the customer of the startup, it's great. But for example, if Airbnb would have come to me in 2008, I would have never invested in Airbnb. If I would have thought of it like a customer, or because I could have not imagined staying in somebody else's house or letting somebody else stay in my house. But that doesn't mean that the idea was bad. The idea was awesome because it allowed a lot of people to monetize their fixed assets. And at the same time, it allowed people an opportunity to visit and not stay in very expensive hotels, right? So it was serving somebody's need. It was probably not just serving my need. So therefore, don't think that you are the target customer for every startup. If you are the target customer, then be rational. If you're not the target customer, then be dispassionate. If you don't understand the scope, go by the experts, and that is why we bring in subject matter experts. And then, if you have a sector preference, go for it. If you have a certain negative list, like there are certain people who will not invest in non-veg, I respect that. It is great. But at the end of the day, listen, that's what I'm saying. You will not learn swimming by staying on the edge. Join, invest. You will attend the quarterly calls. We hold quarterly calls. You will go through the journey of a startup. You will go through the journey of 2-3 startups, right? At each stage of it, in which we all can afford, I hope we don't end up losing 7.5, 10 lakh rupees, but we all can afford to lose that for learning. It's like, one semester at a good B school. Yeah. Right? And it will teach you, it will tell you whether your gut was correct or not. It will tell you whether, the scorecard that we prepare, whether it resonated with you or not. It's the cost of educating yourself.
No, very, 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 very important to know this part more than anything else before you invest, right? So I'll take the next question because it's in my territory as such. What are the legal documents you get when you invest, and what do I get as an instrument to invest? So, so the company starts typically signing a shareholders agreement where Inflection Point Ventures or any other one who's investing would sit down on rights which they would be taking as a part of their investment. You will also get the part of those rights. But at the same time, you get equity or CCPS, which is what most of the times people use as equity instruments to invest, which is compulsory convertible preference shares, where you get better liquidation preference over equity holders, especially for startups. That's the best approach as an investor to make. And those are the instruments you get in your name. Share certificates, etc., would be issued. Or if you're investing into the fund, what IPV has, then you get units of the fund, what they have as such, right? Good. I think I answered it correctly, or is there anything else, right?
No, absolutely.
Okay, perfect, great. This comes to the end. We don't want to take more questions in the interest of time. Thank you, Ankur, again for doing this with us, making investors understand this side of the story. People here. Only the rosy pictures of startups doing well, but where it all starts, especially the whole idea why angel investors are called is because you come in as an angel to somebody who comes with a dream that I want to do this. And as an angel investor, he comes and says, yes, here is the magic wand. Go out and chase your dream, right? So Ankur, kudos to what you're doing to the ecosystem. It is phenomenal. Unicorn is one, but the entire ecosystem, by making people like us and multiple other founders who you invested in the past, making them believe the fact that, go out and chase your dreams. Here we are there to back you as well, right? So thank you so much for doing this for the ecosystem more than anything else.
Pleasure is all mine, Sudarshan. Keep up the good work. I mean, what you're doing is amazing, phenomenal. I will, if I could not have found a better company to be in my NT portfolio, that's all I will say. Great learning, right? But keep up the good work, what you're doing for your investors. You and I both have the same idea. We care about our investors. Yeah. And as long as you care about the investors, overall, the process will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.